The news ticker flashed across the screen. It was a routine Tuesday morning until the headline broke. Global English Proficiency Index shocks experts. Philippines ranks among world's top non-native English-speaking nations. I stared at the screen, coffee forgotten. This wasn't just a statistic, it was a quiet revolution. I was prepping for a Manila business trip, expecting language barriers. But that headline flipped the script. The Philippines was climbing the ranks, outperforming wealthier nations. My trip became a mission to understand. I packed my bags with curiosity, not certainty. Manila was about to teach me a lesson I never expected. My flight landed at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The air was thick with humidity and energy. I expected chaos, confusion, a language barrier. I clutched my hotel address, ready to mime my way through. My first interaction, a security guard. "Sir, the official taxi queue is just to your right. Have a safe trip." Clear, effortless English. My assumptions cracked. In the taxi, the driver greeted me warmly. "Good evening, sir. Where are we headed tonight?" He chatted about Manila, pointed out landmarks, shared stories about his family. His English was alive, full of idioms, jokes, personality. I listened, really listened for the first time. I'd brought business plans and stereotypes. I thought English was a tool for commerce tied to privilege. But this taxi driver, earning a simple living, was dismantling my worldview sentence by sentence. He wasn't trying to impress, he was just connecting. In that simple act, he taught me how wrong I'd been. The language barrier I'd feared was nowhere to be found. Instead, I found warmth, humor, and genuine communication. My old beliefs started to crumble. Manila was not what I expected. The city was teaching me, one conversation at a time. I realized I had a lot to unlearn, and I was ready for it. The next morning, I walked the city. I wanted to see Manila beyond hotel lobbies and conference rooms. At a corner cafe, a college student took my order. "Good morning, sir. Would you like to try our brewed coffee from the Cordillera Mountains?" Her suggestion was more than an upsell. It was culture, offered freely. I watched teenagers outside, their conversation a seamless blend of English and Tagalog. They switched languages mid-sentence, creating their own dialect, Filipino English. It was dynamic, expressive, efficient. They weren't borrowing English, they'd made it their own. Later I asked a traffic enforcer for directions. She gave detailed instructions in clear English, using landmarks and local references. Each encounter was a revelation. The waitress, the teenagers, the traffic enforcer, none were CEOs or diplomats. They were ordinary Filipinos, using English as a practical social tool. It was woven into daily life, not a performance. I'd expected a language barrier. Instead, I found a nation of communicators. They used English to connect, share, help, and live. The language was alive on the streets. It was part of their identity. My assumptions faded with every conversation. English here wasn't foreign. It was familiar. Manila's voices were changing my perspective. I realized I was the one with the barrier, and it was time to let it go. My business associate Gabriel invited me to dinner with his family. "You must experience a real Filipino dinner," he insisted. I arrived at his home, welcomed by 3 generations, all speaking perfect English. We sat around a table filled with adobo, sinigang, and laughter. Gabriel's children spoke confidently about their dreams. They asked about New York, American movies, the world beyond. Even Gabriel's elderly mother shared stories in elegant English, her words full of wisdom. English wasn't just for business, it was the language of family, history, and dreams. It connected generations, carried stories, and built bridges. I realized my ignorance at that table. Here, English was about sharing life, not impressing outsiders. It was a thread tying the past to the future. That dinner taught me more than any meeting could. I saw the heart of Filipino fluency connection, and I was grateful to be part of it, even for one night. The Global English Proficiency Index press conference in Manila was electric. International journalists, diplomats, and educators filled the room. The data was clear. The Philippines excelled, especially in business English. The country outperformed many wealthier, more globalized nations. The real story was comprehension. Filipinos understood nuance and context. The Secretary of Education spoke with pride. "This is the fruit of generations of persistence." We had our teachers, our families, and a belief that language is a bridge. English was not a colonial relic, but a strategic choice, embraced and adapted. The room was filled with quiet, dignified pride. The headline I'd seen in New York now had faces and voices. It was no longer just a statistic. It was a national triumph, earned through resilience. The world was finally listening. The Philippines had claimed its place on the world stage, and I was witnessing history. After the conference, I saw English in the Philippines differently. It wasn't about status, it was about service. In a clinic, a nurse used English to comfort and explain, her words a tool of healing. At a tech startup, young entrepreneurs pitched ideas in flawless English, not for show, but to access global knowledge and bring solutions home. For them, English was opportunity for all, not just the elite. A tour guide in Intramuros brought history to life, using English to share the soul of his nation. English here was democratic, on the streets, in clinics, in innovation hubs. It was a tool for connection, compassion, and community. Not a barrier, but a bridge built by Filipino warmth and adaptability. The language served the people, not the other way around. My old beliefs faded. I saw English as a living, breathing part of Filipino society. It was everywhere, used by everyone. The bridge was real, and I was finally crossing it. The lesson was clear: English here was for everyone. Gabriel invited me to a national education forum. The keynote speaker was a public school teacher from rural Mindanao. She told the story of a student who walked hours to school, classrooms battered by typhoons. Her English was clear, but it was her passion that moved the room. "They say we lack resources," she said, "but I see hunger for knowledge and resilience." She used English to open the world to her students, reading stories, writing letters, making their voices heard. We teach English not so they can leave, but so they can build a better Philippines. The auditorium erupted in applause. Her eloquence came from the heart, forged in daily struggle and love for her students. The Philippines' success in English was about teachers like her, not just policy. Language was a promise of hope and dignity. I was deeply moved. I saw the true foundation of Filipino English, belief in every child's potential. The future was being built in classrooms like hers, and I would never forget it. On my last day, Gabriel and I met for coffee. The business was done, but my real journey had just begun. I confessed my ignorance. Gabriel listened, unjudging. "Many people have the same idea, Michael," he said. "They see struggle, but that's not our identity. Resilience is, hope is." For my generation, English was about being globally competitive. For my children, it's the language of their identity. They live online, connect globally, absorb and create culture. Gabriel dreamed of building libraries in rural communities. A child who can read in English can access the world's knowledge. I finally understood. English in the Philippines was the language of hope. I left that cafe changed. The journey was just beginning. I flew out of Manila a different man. I'd arrived with stereotypes. I left with admiration and respect. The Filipino people taught me English can be a language of embrace, not just power. They infused it with warmth, culture, and spirit. They used it to connect, care, build, and dream. The true measure of proficiency is not accent, but heart. That headline, "Philippines ranks among world's top non-native English-speaking nations," was no surprise now. It was the result of a quiet revolution. Teachers, parents, and children believing in communication. The nation's greatest resource was its people. I remembered Gabriel's words. "They see struggle." But I saw resilience, dignity, and hope. The taxi driver's smile, the teenager's laughter, the family dinner, the teacher's passion. These were the true voices of the Philippines. They weren't struggling with English, they were soaring. And the world was finally listening. I left Manila changed forever. The lesson, language at its best, brings us together.